Trump's legal team after he was indicted on federal charges. Sources tell ABC News 2 of Trump's attorneys have now resigned. This after a grand jury indicted the former president on charges related to his handling of classified documents. And this shakeup of former President Trump's legal team comes hours after one of his attorneys downplayed that indictment on GMA. Jim Trusty told George Stephanopoulos this was just a regular dispute over documents.
Yeah, President Trump, this won't be a newsflash. He's a pretty resilient guy. He's a pretty tough-hided person, so he's not, crumbling in fear or anything remotely like that. He's upset by the notion of this indictment. It's a different conversation.
Now Trump says
this is absolutely wild, genuinely insane in ways we haven't seen in Washington in a very long time. Here we are on April 4th, 2026. And what just unfolded in Congress feels like stepping into the middle of a full-blown political fever dream, the kind that leaves everyone watching with their jaws on the floor and hearts racing. President Trump is losing it right now, and I mean truly losing it in a way that has everyone in the Capitol holding their breath. We're talking full Oval Office meltdown territory, late-night True Social screeds exploding across the internet at 1 in the morning, raw, unfiltered rage pouring out into the digital ether. This is the complete and total meltdown package, the kind of moment where you can almost feel the foundations of power shifting beneath everyone's feet. And why is all this happening? Because 17 House Republicans, members of his own party, his own supposed loyal base, just stabbed him straight in the back on war funding. Yes, you heard that correctly. 17 Republicans voted against something Trump desperately, urgently wanted. This was supposed to be his party, locked solid, unified under his iron grip after the second-term victory. Now it's crumbling in real time, right before our eyes, fractures spreading like cracks through glass under immense pressure. The unity he counted on has turned into open rebellion, and the shockwaves are reverberating through every corridor of power in Washington. The backdrop to this drama makes it even more intense. For weeks, tensions had been building around escalating military action against Iran. American forces had already taken out multiple targets, striking with precision and force. Trump justified the timing of these operations by pointing to Iran's ballistic missile capabilities, describing them as a colossal, direct threat not just to allies but to American troops stationed across the region. The danger felt immediate, visceral, the kind that keeps military planners up at night. After briefing lawmakers in closed-door sessions, Secretary of State Marco Rubio stood firm, echoing that there was indeed an imminent threat that demanded action. He argued passionately that the United States had to act preemptively, especially given intelligence about potential Israeli operations that could drag America even deeper into the fire. If Israel struck alone, the retaliation on American assets could be devastating. So the U.S. stepped in first, shoulders squared, ready to absorb the blow. Strikes continue even now, with Trump claiming the operation is moving ahead of schedule, though projections suggest it could stretch on for a month or longer. 4 to 5 weeks of sustained pressure, resources poured in, lives on the line. But here's what has blown everyone's minds in the most explosive way possible. When it came time for Congress to fund this massive escalation, the House Speaker Mike Johnson could barely cling to a majority. The vote on the funding package failed by the slimmest of margins, 219 to 211. Think about that razor-thin divide. A hair's breadth separating continued momentum from outright rejection. This wasn't some small group of fringe libertarians muttering in the corners. No, this was serious. Mainstream voices within the Republican caucus standing up and drawing a line in the sand. Figures like Marjorie Taylor Greene took to the House floor with fire in her eyes, declaring boldly, "No more blank checks, no more endless wars, no more throwing American taxpayer money at problems that have no clear exit strategy." Her words cut through the chamber like a knife, echoing the frustration of millions watching from home. Trump's response was immediate and nuclear. He unleashed impeachment threats against members of his own party, labeling them traitors, disloyal, weak. The meltdown was visible, visceral, uncontrolled. He crashed out completely, posting furiously, his usual measured political instincts giving way to raw emotion. The funding they blocked was enormous, staggering in scale, $37 billion, not pocket change, not some minor appropriation. This was billions for airstrikes, for troop surges, for the full machinery of an Iran conflict that Trump had been building toward for months. And Congress, his Congress, said no, flat out rejected it. The man who dominates headlines, who commands rallies that shake stadiums, couldn't get his own party to open the purse strings for his war. Can you even believe what we're witnessing unfold in real time? This isn't happening in isolation. The timing couldn't be more charged, layered with crisis after crisis. This vote comes right on the heels of Judge Boasberg issuing serious arrest order threats against Trump himself, warnings that carried the weight of potential jail time if certain compliance demands weren't met. It follows the dramatic purge at the Department of Justice involving Attorney General Bondi, a move that sent shockwaves through the administration. Rejected peace deals linger in the background, failed diplomatic efforts that left the region simmering. Everywhere you look, chaos seems to compound. Republicans in the House aren't just nervous, they're terrified. They're staring at polls showing 60% disapproval on this war push, numbers so lopsided they scream political danger. They're calculating their futures, wondering if hitching their wagon to this moment means going down with a ship that's taking on water fast. Trump's reaction only amplified the drama. He flooded True Social with post after post, vowing vetoes, threatening sweeping action against the House, calling out betrayal in language that burned with intensity. Meanwhile, Washington entered full lockdown panic mode. Capitol Police heightened alerts across the complex. Whispers of government shutdown fears echoed in private conversations. Behind closed doors in the Senate, talk of conviction began circulating, the kind of quiet discussions that hint at invoking the 25th Amendment or pursuing removal from office. The entire Capitol felt electric with uncertainty, everyone wondering what explosive development would come next. To truly grasp the magnitude, we have to step back into the broader context that's been building pressure for months. The firing of Attorney General Bondi wasn't some routine personnel shakeup. She had been Trump's enforcer at the Justice Department, the one expected to deliver on key priorities, including elements tied to peace negotiations and internal house cleaning. Her removal sent a chilling message through the ranks: loyalty above all, results or else. Yet that message seems to have backfired spectacularly. Instead of cowing members of Congress, it made some realize the administration was operating in desperation, lashing out as control slipped. Legal exposures from the Epstein files added another toxic layer, names and associations that made even stalwart supporters pause, wondering about long-term damage to their reputations and legacies. Trump's political armor, once seemingly impenetrable after his midterm successes, has been stripped away. His ability to message, to whip votes, to maintain ironclad loyalty has shattered. Now, House Republicans are openly saying they won't fund this war, not under these circumstances, not with the risks so high and the benefits so unclear. This feels like one of those pivotal moments where history bends, where cracks in the foundation of power become visible chasms. Congress is finally biting back in a major way, asserting authority that 6 months ago seemed unthinkable. Back then, Trump enjoyed total control, unquestioned party loyalty. Everyone fell in line. Now there's mutiny in the air, rebellion on the floor, members willing to go on record in television declaring that the president is overreaching and they are done enabling it. The number 17 isn't random. These aren't uniform voices singing the same tune. Some are principled war skeptics, constitutionalists who reject endless military interventions without clear congressional buy-in. Others are practical politicians staring at gas prices climbing to $5.40 a gallon, hearing their constituents scream about affordability. Families can't stretch paychecks further. Groceries cost a fortune. Rent devours income. Medical bills pile up. How do you explain pouring billions into foreign conflict when domestic struggles dominate every kitchen table conversation? The political calculation has flipped dramatically. What was once career suicide defying Trump now looks like smart survival strategy. Trump's leverage, once absolute, has proven fragile, conditional on economic stability, public support, and perceptions of competence that are eroding fast. After the vote collapse, Trump's True Social feed became a torrent of fury. Post after post, rapid fire accusing the 17 of cutting off troops, aiding enemies, betraying the nation. The rhetoric hit maximum intensity because this marked the first visible, undeniable refusal from his own ranks. They didn't delay or negotiate quietly. They voted no in the open. Suddenly, his entire political project faces questions it hadn't confronted before. Impeachment chatter has moved from fringe corners into serious discussions among politicians, media analysts, and even betting markets. On Polymarket, odds sit around 28% for impeachment during this second term. That's not fantasy, that's real money from informed bettors placing wagers on outcomes. 1 in 4 chance feels tangible, dangerous, the kind of probability that keeps strategists awake. This moment demands we break it down carefully, because the mainstream takes will try to flatten it into simple narratives of partisan squabbling. Reality is messier, layered with constitutional tension, personal ambition, and raw survival instinct. Start with Judge Boasberg's arrest threats. This isn't petty judicial harassment. It's a serious constitutional confrontation, a judge signaling that executive noncompliance could lead to personal legal consequences for the president. Such language makes lower-level Republicans sweat. They're watching allies get ensnared in legal webs, seeing how proximity to controversy can destroy careers. Dominoes seem ready to fall. Trump's instinct in the face of pressure has always been to double down, escalate, push harder, which only generates more scrutiny and more problems. It's a vicious cycle, and members of his party are recognizing it might not be sustainable. When the wagon crashes, they don't want to be riding in it. The war funding request crystallized everything. $37 billion for more strikes, more deployments, more commitment of American blood and treasure in a theater with no obvious off-ramp. Lawmakers started asking tough questions in town halls back home. Why fund air campaigns abroad when school buildings crumble in their districts? Why prioritize foreign escalation when hospitals close and families choose between prescriptions and dinner? Constituents aren't abstract. They're real people sharing stories of hardship. Voting yes suddenly looked like political poison. Voting no became a badge of independence, a way to tell voters, I'm fighting for you, protecting your wallet from blank check foreign adventures. The Bondi Purge fits into this web of chaos. Purging your own attorney general signals instability at the top. It tells everyone the boss is rattled, plans aren't working, desperation is setting in. Combined with emerging Epstein-related revelations, the atmosphere grew toxic. Younger Republicans eyeing long careers beyond this administration started peeling away, building distance while they still could. Polling numbers tell a brutal story, 60% against the war effort. That's not a mild dip, that's overwhelming rejection. Representatives face angry calls, flooded inboxes, town halls turning hostile. In swing districts with thin margins, self-preservation kicks in hard. Speaker Mike Johnson clung to his gavel by fingernails, knowing one more failure could trigger a motion to vacate. Panic showed on his face as the tally came in. He couldn't deliver the votes because the votes simply weren't there. Trump's threats of veto and impeachment against Congress crossed into unprecedented territory. Presidents don't usually threaten to impeach the legislative branch. When they do, it signals deep panic, inverted power dynamics. Security ramped up around the Capitol. Senate whispers about conviction grew louder, hinting at serious consideration of removal mechanisms. No King's protests that began weeks earlier fed into the energy, millions channeling frustration with perceived overreach into pressure on lawmakers, streets and chambers connected in real time. The rebels themselves form a fascinating, dangerous coalition for Trump. Libertarian-leaning members like Thomas Massie stood on constitutional grounds defending Congress's power of the purse. Originalists emphasized war declaration authority resting with legislators, not the executive alone. Mainstream pragmatists feared midterm bloodbaths. Younger guns built independent brands. They didn't coordinate perfectly, yet they converged on no. That kind of cross-faction alignment threatens any president's agenda. Let's examine the biggest implications because this transcends one funding vote. First, Congress is reasserting genuine independence. Republicans defying their president on a signature issue marks a breakdown unseen since early in the term. Other votes now hang in doubt: tax policy, border measures, immigration. Trump's assumption of automatic loyalty has evaporated. When you lose control of your own party, legislation stalls, executive actions face fiercer court challenges, influence wanes, you're left governing on fumes. Second, midterms just became nightmarish for Republicans. Projections suggest over 20 House seats could flip, enough to flip control entirely. Democrats retaking the chamber would rewrite the second term's possibilities. Members know this. They're distancing themselves from toxic elements to survive. If economic pain persists, approval ratings stay low, scandals multiply, historic losses loom, Trump sees the map and recognizes disaster brewing. Third, impeachment feels closer than ever. With 223 Democrats plus 17 Republicans, the House math works for articles of impeachment. Senate conviction requires 67 votes, tougher but imaginable if fractures widen and new revelations emerge. Betting markets pricing and real odds reflect insider sentiment that this presidency has entered dangerous waters. What happens next? Trump will likely try reasserting dominance through primary challenges, public attacks, rallies targeting defectors. Yet each punishment risks accelerating defections. Fired officials and purged loyalists create cautionary tales that push others toward self-preservation. The war itself shows strains. Ignored military warnings, rejected diplomatic off-ramps, mounting costs without visible progress. Congress sees no coherent strategy, only escalation fueled by hope. Gas prices at $5.40 remind everyone daily of domestic priorities ignored. This vote revealed the GOP caucus has a breaking point. Talk of divisions is common, but actual votes against the leader are rare. 17 members declared publicly they're no longer automatic extensions of Trump's will. That shifts the balance permanently. Next major legislation faces uncertainty. Trump's second-term power, meant to be near absolute, proved conditional on economic comfort, voter tolerance, and perceived sanity. MAGA itself shows splits, hardliners demanding strength abroad versus America First voices wanting restraint, libertarians insisting on constitutional limits. These factions no longer unify easily. The spell has broken. Democrats sense opportunity. They will probe fractures, amplify weaknesses, peel away more moderates. Whether they succeed in full ouster remains uncertain, but they will push relentlessly. Trump will counter with force, doubling down, punishing disloyalty. Every move, however, confirms slipping grip. Congress matters again. Checks and balances re-emerged from dormancy. Historians will mark this vote as the turning point, the moment public fracture became undeniable, when Trump's second term pivoted into unpredictable, turbulent territory. The foundation that once seemed bedrock now shows deep fissures. Power in Washington has always been about relationships, incentives, fear, and loyalty. Here, loyalty faltered. Incentives realigned toward self-preservation. Fear of voters outweighed fear of presidential wrath. The coming weeks promise more chaos. More votes will test loyalties. More leaks will surface. Markets will react to instability. Allies abroad will watch nervously. Domestic audiences, already exhausted by drama, will tune in with a mix of fascination and dread. Gas prices may climb further. Casualty reports could arrive. Legal cases might advance. Each element compounds the pressure. Yet amid the storm, something fundamental feels different. Congress remembered its role. Representatives heard their constituents. The Republic's designed tensions between branches flared back to life. Trump, the ultimate disruptor, now faces disruption from within his own ranks. The man who thrived on breaking norms confronts a system pushing back, demanding accountability, restraint, strategy. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of a messier, more contested phase. Alliances will shift. Careers will rise and fall, narratives will battle for dominance, but one thing feels certain, the era of unquestioned control has ended. From here, every decision carries higher stakes, every defection echoes louder, every victory tastes more fragile. The Capitol holds its breath, the public watches transfixed. History turns on moments like these, when 17 votes become the spark that ignites wider realignment. What unfolds next will test not just one president, but the resilience of institutions, the judgment of leaders, and the patience of a nation weary of endless conflict at home and abroad. Emotions run high because the issues cut deep. Families worry about sons and daughters in uniform. Taxpayers resent blank checks. Patriots debate what true strength looks like. Constitutionalists defend separated powers. All these threads weave together in this dramatic hour. The meltdown we witnessed isn't just personal frustration, it's symptomatic of deeper tectonic shifts in American politics. As days progress, expect intensified rhetoric, emergency meetings, attempts at deal-making behind scenes. Trump may rally his core base, framing defectors as weak or compromised. Opponents will highlight fiscal responsibility, anti-war sentiment, rule of law. Media cycles will spin endlessly. Social platforms will amplify every statement. Yet beneath the noise, the core reality persists. 17 Republicans stood up, voted no, and changed the trajectory. This story is far from over. Its next chapters will be written in tension, negotiation, confrontation. Washington has entered uncharted territory for this administration, where assumptions of dominance no longer hold. The drama captivates because it touches fundamental questions of governance, accountability, and national direction. In the end, the Republic's strength lies in its ability to self-correct, even painfully, even publicly. Whether this correction leads to stability or deeper division remains the great unknown hanging over everything. The emotional weight feels heavy. Anger, betrayal, defiance, fear, hope for change all swirl together. Americans from every corner feel invested because the outcomes affect security, economy, future. This isn't abstract politics. It's real lives, real dollars, real principles at stake. The continuous flow of events keeps us glued, wondering how far the fractures will spread, and what new shape power will take when the dust settles. For now, the image lingers, a president raging into the night, a house divided, a nation watching as its leaders grapple with limits. The fever dream continues, and we are all along for the ride, hearts pounding, eyes wide open to whatever comes next in this extraordinary chapter of American history.